Let's go!
Probably the best in the league.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Top three?
Yep, right up there.
It's the Sittin Sportside podcast, exclusively on 1045theteam.com.
And welcome into the podcast. I'm Eric Hanman, along with
John Longton.
Debut of John Longton on the Sittin Sportside podcast. We're happy to have him.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate being here.
Now, because he's new and you might not know who John Longton is, I'm going to let him give a little bit of a background on who John Longton is, what he does for ESPN 1045theteam.com.
Currently I help produce Big Board Sports mornings at 9 to about noon. I'm in the fishbowl there, plugging away in the audio system.
We have a good time. Call in 476-1045 from 10 to 12. You'll probably get either John or I, at least for the next couple of months, and I don't know what's going to happen for. But today, we're not talking about no Big Board Sports. We're talking Sittin Sportside podcast and Brandon Marshall.
Brandon Marshall.
That seems to be the lead, especially here in New York. We're your home for New York sports, 1045theteam.com. And that seems to be the lead. Changing homes in New York. He play at the same stadium, but now he's going as a three-headed monster.
Just changing locker rooms, and he just adds a big target.
Is it changing locker rooms? I think it's the same locker room.
Is it the same locker room?
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
I don't know, man. I wouldn't know.
We'd have to look into that.
Do they use the same locker room? Like, is it the whole thing?
Are there
Meadowlands?
3 locker rooms?
So like
in the
one's
Meadowlands?
Jets, one's Giants.
I don't know. I'm just asking this out
That
loud.
would seem to make sense. I just don't know that for an absolute fact.
I'm gonna guess that there's 3 locker rooms. There's 2 homes and 1 visitor. But
I would get that.
I can't bet anything right now because I don't know.
That's a lot. That would be a lot on the crew, but maybe it is. That's besides the point, maybe a little bit, because we're talking about what happens on the field.
We're burying the lead here.
We're burying the lead a little bit. And do you like the move? It's just it's kind of something I can't poke a hole in per se at the moment.
It's a great move. I mean, granted, they parted ways with Victor Cruz, who in his own was a great receiver for the Giants, but they're saving money and upgrading into Brandon Marshall. Granted, he didn't have the numbers that he had in 2015 last year, but what he brings to the table is just a big target, and now they have 3 great receivers on that team. They just need to be able to throw the ball.
Yeah, Eli Manning. It's kind of been the offense was kind of the issue last year, and it still wasn't necessarily on the passing game. It was more kind of on the running game, the lack of the running game for the Giants. So, yes, this is a huge upgrade, I think, from Victor Cruz because he was nothing compared to what he was before injuries last season. He would fade away in games. He'd make some big plays, but he faded away. And,
well, he's very injury prone.
Exactly. And Odell Beckham Jr. really hadn't had that guy. Sterling Shepard wasn't really... He showed flashes in his rookie year, obviously, but he really wasn't a reliable guy. Now, if he takes a step forward, you have kind of reliable in Brandon Marshall on top of the electric Odell Beckham Jr. It's kind of the sky's the limit, especially if that defense is as good as it was last year, and even maybe it takes a step forward. The sky is a limit for the Giants football team.
They came around.
They just need to see who they're going to bring in to be the second running back. Because you have Paul Perkins. You got rid of Rashad Jennings. Is Orleans Darkwa that number 2 guy, and that's where Adrian Peterson kind of becomes a little bit muffy. So maybe we'll talk a little about Adrian Peterson. Kind of Seahawks and Raiders seem to be the favorites at the moment.
I was reading they don't want him.
The Giants.
The Raiders and Seahawks.
Neither of those two want them.
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I think he's the Giants for the taking, but who knows if crazy Jerry Jones is going to do something down in Dallas. You never know what that guy's up to.
See, Jerry. I don't really necessarily see Ezekiel Elliott and Adrian Peterson being, because I didn't see Darren McFadden get that many carries this year. And I'm not putting Darren McFadden on the same level of Adrian Peterson, but what I'm saying is that they're kind of very similar running backs in terms of.
Alfred Morris was healthy, and
he was
leading the league last 3 years in rushing.
Right, and what I'm saying is that Ezekiel Elliott really especially down the stretch. I know Morris might have had an injury and whatnot, but it was kind of Ezekiel Elliott 80% of the time.
Yeah.
So then if you bring in Adrian Peterson, does that make it 50-50, 60-40 Zeke? I mean...
Well, I think I personally can run behind that offensive line, and that's what the Giants need. The Giants truly need an offensive line in order for this to work, and that's kind of the question right now. Like, what are they going to do to upgrade that offensive line? Are they going to go out and make a play? Are they going to draft somebody? They need to beef that up because you need time to be able to throw the ball. You can have all the receivers in the world, but if you don't have time to get the ball down the field, it's pointless. The Brandon Marshall signing could be pointless.
The big names and the more exciting moves of the offseason seem to be the receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks, heck, even tight ends. Dwayne Allen to the Patriots today. But, yeah, the offensive line seems to be the thing that we don't necessarily talk about because it's not that exciting, but it's actually one of the most important. And Eric Flowers very struggled for the Giants last year, and that is right. If Eli Manning doesn't have time to throw, it's not gonna. But I think that it has something to do with the running game. I'm not saying that that this offensive line deserves a total pass, but I do think it has something to do with the running game. If you don't have to really worry about the running game, you can possibly blitz more and know that you're not going to have to stop that much of a lethal running attack. So I think a better running game will, for the guys that they do have, might actually take some pressure off of them. But they do need to bring in someone else out there. And I don't know, do you have any offensive linemen from the draft? I don't mean that.
I haven't scouted any offensive linemen.
Yeah, see, it's one of those things.
I don't spend my spare time scouting offensive linemen. Maybe I should.
There was one guy that Levac and Gaz talked to at Super Bowl Radio Row. I can't remember his name, but he was cut from the Steelers, signed with the Jaguars last year, and cut for them again this year. He's the only one that I kind of really know. But I obviously don't because I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do?
Any other big-time NFL stories? I think we're going to stick with that on this podcast here today. And I think that talking about the Cowboys, Barry Church likely to leave and head to the Jaguars. 49ers bring in Brian Hoyer. Tyrod Taylor looks like he's staying in Buffalo.
Yep, they just signed him today.
And Tony Romo officially getting his release Thursday. So I guess if we stick with the other team on New York, we brought them up, the Jets. Is it looking more and more likely it's going to have to be Cutler or one of the other two guys, a.k.a. Petty or Hackenberg? Or Geno? I don't know.
Yeah, Geno's always the wild card. I don't see them drafting a quarterback. They have so many other needs on that team. It could be.
And if you're Todd Bowles, I know it's not his decision. Even if you're Mike McCagnon, because I would say they're kind of equally on hot seats. If you draft that quarterback, and it is one of the ones, because I mean, obviously, the way we look at this draft, all of them, like Deshaun Watson, Deshaun Kaiser, and Mitch Trubisky, none of them are looking at them as guys that are going to be immediate impact quarterbacks. And so the word out on the street basically is that why draft a quarterback that is a project if you're not even guaranteed to be here past the year? And so I think that maybe it could end up being a Jay Cutler because maybe they feel
that makes most sense.
Cutler would give them the best chance to get, let's say, 8+ wins and maybe keep their jobs. So that then maybe Christian Hackenberg can develop.
They need somebody in there now. They're not really looking towards the future per se because their future is right now. If they don't make a move right now, then they're going to be looking for jobs before you know it. They're going to be dusting off their resume and putting it back on Monster.com if they can't get somebody in there making plays. It's dangerous for a team. There's no longevity for these coaches and GMs and teams. You don't see it anymore.
So I guess that what that means is that we are kind of saying that Tony Romo is a no-go in New York, probably. Because it's probably, I heard it's either Denver or Houston. I mean, that's what I keep
hearing as well. I mean, I think it would be a good fit in New York, but I think John Elway's going to go grab him. He has to. I mean, he's got everything but a quarterback there. He can just slip right into what Peyton Manning did. And,
I think it'd be the ultimate test for people, for Tony Romo, and it would show two people who are haters of Tony Romo. It might call him a different name that rhymes with Romo. I think it's a perfect test for him to show if Peyton Manning did it and I do it too in Denver, am I on the same level as Peyton Manning?
Right.
And that would be interesting. Real quick on Brandon Marshall. Any superstition as maybe someone, if you were a Giants fan, we know you're not, and to let the listeners know that you are a diehard Miami Dolphins fan.
It's sad.
Is there any superstition possibly, if you were a Giants fan, and you had Brandon Marshall on your team, so you kind of, and so did I, I'm a Jets fan.
How many teams do you play for? This is 5 now?
This is his 5th team, I believe.
So is he now classified as a journeyman?
I
think 4 teams classifies you as a journeyman.
But is there any superstition surrounding Brandon Marshall that, hey, he's never played in the playoffs, maybe he's going to jinx my team? Or is it kind of those things where the Giants know they're a playoff team, but Marshall is going to be the thing that gets them to where they could have beaten the Packers this past year?
Yeah, I don't believe in that whole jinx stuff, unless you're talking baseball, of course. But it doesn't really exist in football. I don't know. I think the signing of Marshall kind of puts the Giants in the top tier in the NFC now, because they were on the brink last year. Sorry they had to run into the Packers, but they ran into the Packers and their season was ended. But adding Marshall to that team puts them right in the top tier, if not, favorites to win the NFC. In my mind.
Yeah, I said at the end of last year that I really thought that the Giants were going to be Super Bowl contenders out of the gate in 2017. And this doesn't do anything to hurt that. If anything, it really boosts that opinion. I'm just looking at offensive linemen now. We have the research on this show. I'm looking at some Russell Okung is the top left tackle out there. Kelvin Beachum is the aforementioned guy who was with the Steelers and then cut by the Jaguars this past season, who was on with Levac and guys. Andrew Whitworth, also left tackle. And then, he goes on. I keep going. Ryan Clady, who had an injury-ridden year with the New York Jets. But if the Giants could possibly bring in one of those first 3 that I mentioned, like Russell Okung's like the top guy, I'm not sure they're going to be able to bring him in, but if they get the Beachum or the Whitworth, there's a chance that would be the sign that makes you think, all right, this is a Super Bowl team, if you still had the doubts. Now, my thought going into this, and I'm thinking of just looking at some other potential free agents, that are still out there that I kind of wanted to touch on, is Darrelle Revis and the Jamal Charleses of the world. So you look at both of those guys, they kind of come off down to their luck seasons, probably one of the worst of their careers. Charles obviously injured. Darrelle Revis has kind of had his injuries too. Do we see one of those two guys? Obviously, we see them signing with somebody, but could we see one of those guys really make a heavy impact with the team next year?
Yeah, for sure. I could see one of these guys signing a 1-year deal and having a proving ground year where they can maybe make their money and get I don't want to say a long-term contract. How old are these guys that we're talking?
Well, Darrell's 31 and Charles is 30.
So I could see them signing 1-year deal, kind of, a tryout on show for the rest of the league, and then, maybe get another opportunity down the road. But I don't see them signing big deals right now.
Right.
That's not going to happen. They could definitely both be impact players. Definitely. I could see, I don't think Darrelle Revis is going to be that shutdown corner that he normally has been. But, put him in a nickel somewhere or on a bad defense. He can definitely make an impact for sure.
Now, I want to make a quick note of the Buffalo Bills, and I'm kind of just looking at this and scratching. I'm not going to say I'm scratching my head, but I kind of like scratching my head at first, and then now I'm like, okay, I kind of like maybe where they're going with it. Patrick DeMarco, Atlanta Falcons fullback, has signed with the Buffalo Bills, and he's quickly joined by former fullback, but now a running back, and former player on the Panthers when their new head coach, the Bills' new head coach Sean McDermott was the coach, Mike Tolbert. So are you buying into this kind of, maybe they're going for that ground and pound, and Tyrod Taylor is going to have to do nothing but maybe throw it 15, 20 times a game, and they're going to be trying to give it to the bigger guys and kind of be more of a ground and pound type team? Is that what McDermott you think is going to want to do with the Buffalo Bills?
Well, it kind of all starts on the other side of the ball. If they play great defense,
right,
shutting teams down, they can own the time of possession and kind of take it from there. It's a question because that defense that was inherited by why am I drawing a blank here?
Rex Ryan?
Yeah, Rex Ryan. I'm sorry. I don't know why I drew a blank there. I've rooted against the guy my whole life. That
He
defense,
literally was a rival of yours for 8 years.
Yeah. I'd love to forget his name again, to be honest. But, that defense that he inherited, everyone was talking about it. If they get back to that level, then I could see them doing the whole ground and pound thing. No problem. But still, they're in the same division as the Patriots.
All right, on the cue of Brandon Marshall, on the theme of Brandon Marshall for the show, I would love for you to play a little game with me. It's called Remember When.
Remember when Bobby Boucher showed up at halftime and the Mud Dogs won the Bourbon Bowl, do you?
Okay. All right, so remember when?
I got one for you.
You got one for me.
Remember when Brandon Marshall played for the Miami Dolphins and caught 4 touchdowns in the Pro Bowl? Do you remember when? I remember.
I really don't.
You don't?
I
Are you kidding me?
didn't watch the Pro Bowl.
I mean, no one watches the Pro Bowl, but...
Didn't he set the record for most receptions in the game? That was with Denver, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it was with the Dolphins.
I remember that.
Yeah, he caught 4 touchdowns in a Pro Bowl
Well,
for the Dolphins.
I
And
think-
was quickly traded right after.
I think we're thinking, or I think I'm going back to the talk of the top 3 best receiving cores of all time.
Oh,
Are we looking at the Giants? I know you brought that up. So I think we should talk about remember when these 3. And I actually have a question for you. If we after you remember, go back to the good old days with some of these great wide receiving cores. I know you did a lot of hard work on this stuff.
No, not really a lot of hard work. Just Google did everything for me. But
Don't admit that.
why not?
Okay, fine.
Hey.
Let's do it.
All right, so just a couple to choose from. I got the 2004 Indianapolis Colts with Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, and Brandon Stokely.
Brandon Stokely.
Brandon Stokely.
Shout out Zach Bye and Brandon Stokely.
Shout out Zach Bye, Brandon Stokely. Manning threw 4,500 yards that season. And back then, I mean, there are different rules to the game. It's more of an offensive game now than it was back then. And he had 49 touchdowns. That was unheard of back then. What are your thoughts on that?
That's one of my favorite teams. I mean, I am a Jets fan first, but I do have an affinity for the Indianapolis Colts for the reason of Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison, and Reggie Wayne and Edgerrin James. I mean, those, and then I can even add in Dallas Clark, Stokely, like you mentioned, Dwight Freeney on the defensive side, and obviously Robert Mathis. So those are like the big reasons why. So like when you bring that up, it's like triggers this great memory of mine, and I think those are 3 great receivers, and I kind of had this weird argument with someone before with, Peyton Manning is a really good quarterback, and he kind of helped make those guys great receivers, and vice versa. They helped make him a great quarterback. So then that's why I think that you got the perfect quadruple? No, I don't even know. Group. I'll just say group. Because it's the 3 great receivers, and then you had Peyton Manning, who you can consider one of the best of all time. Now with the Giants right now, there's still kind of this onus on Eli Manning of he might not even be an elite quarterback, and some might not even say he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm not one of those for either one. I think that he's definitely not elite probably right now based on the last couple of seasons and statistics and whatnot. But I think that Eli Manning could be a great quarterback. Is this could we be looking at these receivers now? Brandon Marshall might make Eli Manning elite and put him over that hump, and obviously if he gets that 3rd Super Bowl, he's a sure Hall of Famer.
For sure.
Is there the sense of maybe the 3 receivers can make Eli Manning that? Or is it all Eli Manning making sure these 3 quarterbacks are?
Well, I don't know. I
That's
think
too deep of a question.
Is
Is that like a wait and see question?
Yeah, it's definitely a wait and see question.
Right.
But
all right, next group.
All right, next group. Here we go.
Remember when?
Remember when Randy Moss and Chris Carter played together?
Oh my!
On the '98 Vikings.
We kind of went over this a little bit before the show. I was a little too young probably to appreciate it. I remember the Dante Culpepper, Randy Moss days probably a little more than I remember Chris Carter as a great receiver with them. That's probably more of your golden days as a kid.
What are you trying to say?
I'm just saying you're 8 years older than me, I think, right?
I just Just make sure you're not firing any shots over there.
Okay, no. I'm just saying that I don't think I respect it as much as someone like you.
Yeah, that was Randy Moss's rookie season, and they were a missed field goal shy of going to the Super Bowl that year. They're 15-1. 15-1. These guys were doing things back then that you see it now, like I said, because of the rule changes. But back then, this was a high-octane offense. It was Randall Cunningham, I believe. He would just throw the ball down the field, and either receiver would get it.
I remember Dante Culpepper a little bit.
They had it was the same dynamic.
Was Culpepper ever there with Chris Carter?
I don't believe so.
So yeah, I remember more of just Moss and Culpepper. But
yeah,
keep going.
Yeah, get your roll on, Pep. Get your roll on. Remember that?
Yeah.
But no, this team was stacked. They had Robert Smith as a running back. Remember, I'm saying you remember John Randall on defense, Rudd on defense. I mean, these guys were good. They should have won the Super Bowl. This is the best team in my mind to never win a Super Bowl, hands down. And it started with their wide receivers: Chris Carter, Hall of Famer; Randy Moss, for sure Hall of Famer. And that leads me to my next group.
Oh, remember when?
Remember when Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens were on the same receiving corps?
Oh man, yes. See, once again, I was not really conscious. I mean, I was 5 years old in 1999.
You remember. You were in the room playing.
But
it was on the television.
Right, and like I remember it was more of a T.O. sitting in an Eagles uniform, and then I kind of like somehow find out, wait a second, he was on the Niners and with Jerry Rice?
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, it's like it's one of those moments for me. And I mean, I look up YouTube videos. I look up my old stuff. My favorite things to watch, not to go off topic, but my favorite things to watch is old NBA highlights. So I watched a lot of Bad Boy Pistons from the late 80s, the early 90s, obviously Bird versus Magic, stuff like that. But go ahead.
Right.
Drazen Petrovic, look at that. Michael Jordan, Drazen Petrovic. If you go looking at basketball YouTube videos, that's a good one to look up. Go ahead.
Can we get back on topic?
Yeah, let's get
here?
back on topic.
Can we get back on topic?
I'm just talking about remember when, you know?
Yeah, no, I definitely remember when you were just talking about that 2 seconds ago. But I'm trying to move on here.
Your hippocampus is working well.
Yeah, more or less. Remember back when Terrell Owens caught that bomb from Steve Young to win the 99 wildcard game at Lambeau Field? He was crying after the game. I'm sure you remember when.
I've seen the crying. I remember.
Did you look up
crying.
that video on YouTube?
I think I've seen it. Yeah, maybe.
You definitely have seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Too bad they ran into the Falcons next round, because that team could have won a Super Bowl as well.
Don't bring up the Falcons and Super Bowl in the same sentence for another month or so. If you have a Falcons fan listening, they're probably going to get bawling their eyes out.
Should we just cut this out of the show? Should we stop?
We'll leave it in. We'll leave it in. Any other big time receivers? I think I saw Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt.
I'm bearing the lead. Greatest show on turf was the greatest receiving core ever. All right, you got Torrey Holt, you got Isaac Bruce, you got Oz Hakeem, and Ricky Prohl. You just throw the ball up in the air, one of those guys is going to catch it. That's what happened. I mean, these guys turned Kurt Warner into a guy selling groceries into a Hall of Fame quarterback.
So you're saying it was the receivers that made Kurt Warner?
Maybe for that team.
Because
I don't know if you remember back when Trent Green was supposed to lead that team to a Super Bowl, and he got hurt. He, I believe, tore his ACL. Then Kurt Warner had to step up.
Kurt Warner was the original Tom Brady.
Kurt Warner was the original Tom Brady. 2 years before Tom Brady was Tom Brady. Tom Brady took it from Kurt Warner. Tom Brady said, wait a second. I'm Tom Brady. You're not Tom Brady. I'm Tom Brady.
I'll win 3 more.
And you know what? I don't need
4 more.
I don't need a receiver to do so. And you know what? Give me Troy Brown. I'll take little Troy Brown over there. I'll throw it up to him. I don't need Oz Hakeem, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, and Ricky Prohl. I don't need those guys. I'll throw it to Troy Brown and whoever else wants to play.
David Givens.
Yeah, David Givens. David Patton. Played for the Firebirds. Remember back when?
Firebirds.
The Firebirds.
Wow.
I'll always try to make a Firebird reference.
Listen, I never saw I might have seen the Conquest. I never saw the Firebirds.
You've never seen Touchdown Eddie Brown? In your life?
No.
Not even on YouTube, I bet. Touchdown Eddie Brown was the greatest thing I've ever seen. Mike Pawlowski.
I've heard of him.
Mike Pawlowski used to just throw the ball anywhere in that arena, and Touchdown Eddie Brown would just come down with it. Number 17, Touchdown Eddie Brown. My childhood rides on that guy. And he is Antonio Brown's father.
That's what I said. That's a really good segue.
I found that out like 2 years ago, and it blew my mind.
That's where I heard the name. Moving on to this. Speaking of Antonio Brown, who is the best receiving core other than the Giants right now, would you say?
Oh, boy.
Because this leads me to this question. Alshon Jeffrey is a pretty darn good, in my opinion, receiver out there. he kind of gotten a bad name maybe because last year he had the suspension and had a little bit of a down year. But is there any receiving core out there that if they did sign Alshon Jeffrey would not only rival what now we're seeing with the New York Giants, but might actually make them better than the New York Giants receiving corps? And obviously you think of Atlanta, you think of Pittsburgh, because they have two of the best receivers in the league. And obviously if you got another great receiver, it could put you right there with them. But is there any other team that you could see that with?
Yeah, I'm going to say the Patriots, obviously.
That would make him one of the best receiving core, or that'd be a good fit for Jeffrey?
Both.
Both.
You see what Randy Moss did there?
Yeah, I know. But that would make him the best receiving core? You think Edelman...
Well, I mean...
Well, I guess. Yeah, they're doing,
Because you got
they do
Gronk.
work.
Gronk's not a receiver, but he's in the receiving core. Would that technically qualify him?
There's some real significant concern on Gronk.
What are you hearing?
I mean...
Just that he gets nicked up
that
every
he
year?
might not... Yeah, exactly. I think there's actually a lot of concern on Gronk. I would not be surprised if someone does end up trying to take a chance on him and Belichick uses his genius to get rid of that possible question mark.
A first-round pick. Something crazy.
Yeah.
2 first-rounders.
Yeah, I think Gronk ends up being a guy who is as fragile as it gets.
Did you see that footage of Gronk?
Beat the crap out of me, but, fragile as in he gets injured a lot.
Yeah, well, he's
not durable.
He's going over the middle a lot, and he's a very physical player.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't do that stuff and not get nicked up here and there.
I mean, like I said, they just traded for Dwayne Allen, knowing that they're not getting Martellus Bennett back, so they're trying to get some kind of insurance.
Right. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
But
no, I mean, yeah, you take the Patriots. Yeah, I would say that it'd have to be one of the two that I mentioned, the Falcons or Steelers, because if you can put Jeffrey on one of those two teams, you have Jones or you have Brown, and then you have Jeffrey, and then the third one, Mohamed Sanu for the Falcons and Martavis Bryant. No, that would be interesting if he did come back from his year-long suspension.
That's a great receiver.
He'd have a third, and he came back in what he was beforehand out of Clemson, and then you had Jeffrey and Brown. Whew. That would be my Super Bowl pick. I told you my Super Bowl pick was Giants and Steelers
before the Marshall thing.
Right when the Super Bowl ended.
That
was
this morning.
Yeah, that was my Super Bowl pick, like way too early Super Bowl pick right after the 2016 season. And if the Steelers come out pulled that off, man, I think that would easily make them as a significant favorite to the Patriots next year.
I was watching your team play in the Super Bowl. Seriously, I've never watched my team play even in a conference championship.
What do you ask me about?
Aren't you a Giants fan?
I do root for the Giants. The Jets are my number one team.
Oh, the Jets are number one team?
See, if I really need to explain it to you, shall I explain it to you right now?
I want you to explain it to me right
podcast?
Now. Yeah.
Growing up, I began. My dad's a Giants fan, so growing up, I nationally was kind of a Giants fan. Played a little video game in the late '90s, early 2000s when it probably must have been early 2000s because that's when Curtis Martin became a Jet. Loved Curtis Martin on the video game, so I started rooting for the Jets.
Okay.
So ever since then, I was rooting for the Jets and the Giants. Now my dad and I both root for the Jets and the Giants. And then the way I look at it is I'm a Jets fan first, Giants fan second, while my dad's a Giants fan first, the Jets fan second. But we like them both kind of equally, and then I have that little affinity for the Indianapolis Colts as well. And many people throw hate at me, throw shade at Eric H1045. Throw some shade at me. I don't care, but that's my story.
So does that dilute if the Jets do something good? Does you liking another team kind of
when you ask me the
that?
question of has my team played in the Super Bowl, I did not register in my head because I would kind of consider Jets my
team. Fair enough. Actually, that's a good way of getting out of that. Good job, sir. I was gonna bury you, but you got it. You got it. All right, what's next up, man?
Well, if we're sticking on NFL, is there anything else in the NFL you want to touch on that you had on the show prep?
Just free agents, I guess. I mean,
so Remember When is over, so I can fit out the music for Remember When.
Is Remember When music still on?
Well, you don't have a headset on, so you didn't know. But yeah, Remember When was music
I don't have
still
a plug
on.
over
You're
here.
fine. You're fine.
All right,
You're fine.
I'm just winging it over here. I was asked to do this morning.
Whatever. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. What did you got? C.J. Spiller to the Chiefs? Oh man, big time.
You think? Or did it happen?
No, that happened.
Really?
Oh yeah.
So they're done with Charles. There's no way he's getting
100%. They're moving on.
So
I'm thinking Eagles. I don't know why I'm thinking Eagles, but I heard Eagles, and I like it. Doug Peterson looking into that.
No doubt. Okay. Where do you got? Vincent Jackson's a free agent too. Huh?
Vincent Jackson's a free agent. Julius Peppers wants to play again. Does he go back to Green Bay?
Is he a linebacker or a D lineman? When he goes back to Green Bay.
Wherever they want to put him, I would imagine it's the linebacker. But
I hope Victor Cruz finds a home, man. He deserves it.
that's an interesting point.
He should go to the Jets.
I don't want Nick Mangold to go to a team that I don't want him to go to, but you go to the Jets?
Yeah, might as
they
well.
get him cheap. I mean,
I think it'd be great.
At what point?
Just swapping jerseys. That's
and
all they're
then
doing.
maybe on Christmas Eve, we don't play them this year. Have to be another couple of years, but Christmas Eve, both teams have playoff hopes on the line, and a 99-yard touchdown pass that deflates the other, the Giants' hopes. Anyway, that's my Victor Cruz memory, obviously, for whatever reason.
Heard that.
Giants need a tight end, though. Is there any tight end out there that you possibly see the Giants? Or are they going to be trying to look at O.J. Howard in the draft? Is it going to be more of like a draft type of thing for the Giants?
I would draft a tight end, to be honest, because I'm looking down the list right here. I don't know.
You got Jordan Cameron's the only one I really saw.
Jordan Cameron, he just got a concussion sneezing this morning. All right, so I would cross that off the list for sure. He didn't work out for the Dolphins.
He did not.
I was super excited when we signed him, and
he did not. And he was probably more of a product of
you know what he did?
Of North Turner.
You know what he did? He stunted the growth of Deion Sims, and I'm sure nobody listening to this podcast has no idea what I'm talking about. But Deion Sims,
I think I do, because Deion Sims kind of killed the Jets this past year.
Yeah,
from what I remember.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he Michigan State grad. He's been on the roster for 3 years now, I want to say, and he had an opportunity to start, and then we signed Jordan Cameron.
Sorry, I just saw the weirdest thing.
What's he got?
I was looking at Danny Woodhead because he's a free agent, and I saw that the free agents, it said LAC. I'm like, what the heck? Why are they talking about the Clippers? Talking about the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm still getting used to the Rams being out there, to be honest.
Well, because the Rams used to be LA, so you're like, okay, it's just LA.
Right.
But now that they have two there, now you have to have something at the end, and now it says LAC. Now the first thing I thought of was the Clippers.
What about the Las Vegas Raiders if that happens?
It would just be LV, right? You think?
I don't know. Is that even gonna go down still? Didn't they pull their bid?
I heard they got possibly more money.
I heard that they had money.
A new suitor. The guy that they originally had pulled out.
Yeah.
So then there was in question. They contacted San Antonio.
Right.
And then I most recently saw on the news that someone was actually willing to put up the money. So that might end up happening.
I would enjoy that because
we already know the Golden Knights are going to be there for hockey next year.
Did St. Rose get paid off that?
Yes. I don't know. I actually don't know what happened with that whole trademark thing.
That story died. It was like spreading like a wildfire one week, and then I haven't heard of it since that week.
Well, Clarkson's also the Golden Knights.
Yep.
So I mean,
I guess Clarkson signed off on it. And did they forget about St. Rose? Is that what happened?
Signed up on it, maybe like on the DL, unless it's still an issue.
I'd ask him for $1 million.
Why not?
Why not? Build a new building. Do something.
Yeah.
You can name one of your buildings.
They're a tournament team this year. They're a tournament team this year in Division 3, right? Division 3.
Brian Buring?
Yeah, Brian Buring.
Doing a good job.
Yeah?
Doing a good job. Hey, you know whose name is on that court? Mike Long. You know who Mike Long is?
I don't remember Mike
Right
Long.
now, he's the Hudson Valley basketball coach. Great guy. Great guy.
Okay.
I covered their team last year.
So, this is just random because I saw his name on the free agent list. Mark Sanchez. Want to hear an interesting fact about Mark Sanchez?
I want to hear it. Let's go.
Mark Sanchez, Tony Romo, and Dak Prescott were all on the same team, right?
Okay.
Obviously, Dak got to the playoffs and lost.
Yeah.
So at the end of the season, they're all sitting there on the bus, and Mark Sanchez is just looks down the line, and eventually he sees Zeke, and this is Zeke. He's like, Zeke, out of the three of us, Dak, Tony, and I, who do you think has more playoff victories?
Was that a joke?
That was a joke.
Oh, okay.
But it's the truth.
It is the truth.
It's the truth.
It is the truth. Butt fumbles and all.
4-1-0.
4-1-0. Who has more playoff losses?
Romo?
I don't know.
Sanchez has 2.
Sanchez has 2?
I would imagine Romo has at least 2. Dak, we know has at least. He's 0-1.
Wait a minute now. He might have only... Nah.
He has the one where he dropped the field.
Right.
The field goal.
They should have won that game.
And then that's the same year as the Giants? If that's not the same year the Giants won.
No, I thought... Didn't the Seahawks win the Super Bowl that year?
Okay, so
wasn't that the Sean Alexander year? Didn't he have
They never won with Sean Alexander. They lost to the Steelers in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
that was
I'm
that
just
year.
saying that's the year he had the cover.
That's the year, and then he lost to the Giants the year they won the Super Bowl.
I want to say that was 2000.
In 2012, he lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl. So he has at least 2.
Okay.
Anything else in the NFL?
I
I will. If not, you don't.
Combine.
Combine. Yeah, anything about the draft? I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on the draft later in the podcast.
I kind of think it's
a
interesting.
little later in the season.
That whole Adidas Island thing, where the kid broke the 40 time.
The 4, yeah.
And didn't get the island because he wasn't wearing Adidas. He was wearing Nikes.
See, like, I just heard that. I heard that
What was the kid's
Warren
name again?
Buffett was going to do that. But I did not hear that he didn't get it because I just kind of...
It was. I heard it was Adidas.
It was Adidas. Oh, yeah, it was.
So where's Warren Buffett coming to play?
He's the one that offered it, I think.
Why would Warren Buffett offer Adidas money?
I don't know. I thought it was him. Maybe it wasn't. No, it was Adidas.
It was Adidas.
It was Adidas. It was just Adidas.
I
Warren
think-
Buffett came in my head because he's offering something for the bracket.
Yeah, bracket.
But that was just for his employees.
Speaking of bracket,
he's offering his own employees. That's what he's offering. He's offering if one of his employees can get 16 for 16 of Sweet 16 teams, he'd give them something. I don't even know what it is. Maybe $1 million. Something like that.
What's
But
he
yeah,
worth?
it was Adidas. Fine, it was Adidas. That's crazy. And then he had the Nikes. Wow.
Who wins in that deal? Did Nike win in that, or did Adidas win in that for the publicity? Because everyone was just talking about Adidas. But he ended up wearing Nikes.
I think Nike wins because of the fact that the kid knew he had a chance of... Not only does he get it with the Nikes, so maybe it's the shoes that help that performance, but then the kid wins it with the Nikes and chose not to wear Adidas, even though he knew, as far as I know, that he had a chance to win an island with the Adidas. So even though he thought, all right, if I wear the Adidas, I have a chance to get an island. Yeah, but I'll wear the Nikes.
I was listening to Dan Patrick the other day, and he had a great idea. He says that Nike should have a photo shoot with him on an island wearing those Nikes just to stick it to Adidas. How great would that be? That's all ultimate corporate smack talk right there. Doesn't get any better than that. But
yeah, I mean, John Ross, that's who it was?
John Ross, yeah. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
What do you run, a 4.2 something? 4.25?
4.24. No, 4.22. He broke the 4.24 record.
4.22, yes. All right.
4.22.
Imagine having wheels like that.
So he's a wide receiver, not a running back. Interesting.
If
Chris
you-
Johnson was a running back.
If you were that fast, what would you do?
I don't know.
I would run everywhere.
I really don't know. I can't answer that question for you. What does Usain Bolt do with his life?
Well, everyone knows who he is, but no one knows who this kid is on the
Fine.
street.
Fair enough.
I would just run down the street.
How about the guy who came in second place? All those years behind Usain Bolt. That guy's probably still pretty fast.
Yeah.
So, what do they do?
I'd run everywhere.
You just run everywhere?
Yeah. Might as well.
Would you do anything first before you ran to your next destination?
Yeah, I'd probably say, hey, look at me. It's just run.
Okay.
And just burst down the
That's
road.
not where I was going with it. I also didn't. I was beating around a bush that if you say you saw a pair of shoes that you liked and you were that fast.
Would I steal something? Is that what you're asking?
I mean, that's where I thought you might have gone with it.
I don't know if I was implying me stealing anything.
No, I just think you're like, oh, if I was that fast. But you asked me, like you said, if you were that fast, what would you do? And
I mean,
I'm just
we're
like,
not
okay,
talking
well,
like-
what are we thinking here?
we're not talking like the
what do you mean
mask-
what I would do?
We're not talking like the mask robbing a bank.
Yeah,
fast.
but like, you're kind of like asking me, like, if you were that fast, what would you do? I'm like, I don't know. I would just be that fast. I'd try to play sports.
Yeah.
What's the other thing I could do?
I guess steal sneakers.
That's what
I
I'm saying.
guess
That's
steal
like the
sneakers.
first thing that came into my mind.
All right, we know where your head's at.
I
Moving
just
along.
saying, like, what else would I do with
All right,
that
let's move it
speed?
along here.
What else would I do with that speed, John? Like, I just...
I don't know. You
you
showcase that
wonder why
speed.
that first thing came to my
You
mind. It's
showcase that speed.
I would make sure that when I'm running boards on the game that, okay, I'd run to the vending machine that much quicker.
Yeah.
I would take more risks when I know a break is coming soon. Anyway,
Anywho,
did I go too far?
I don't know. Let's bring it back.
Where are we bringing it back to?
Well-
I think that was I think that's the show. I think that might be the show.
Is that the show?
That might be the show, but we will tease our second podcast with you and I.
Yeah.
We're going to do another one on the NCAA tournament. We'll talk about Syracuse and whether they're going to get into the tournament. Obviously, Selection Day is this Sunday, so we'll try to get that one out as soon as possible, probably tomorrow morning. We'll get that out. We'll talk about Syracuse and other teams who we think looking into the tournament going into Selection Sunday. And we'll talk a little MVP talk and a little NBA talk as well on our next podcast.
Sounds good to me.
Another tease I want to give out to you is that we promised some of you guys, if you listen to this, I doubt any of you are that loyal, but if you are, I appreciate it. Tweet at me and follow me at EricH1045. You got a Twitter account?
Yeah, I am at longshotlongton.com. That's LONGTON.
I respect it.
Yeah.
I
picked up 3 followers
Hogan's
the
is
other day.
at Hogan Hoagie, and kind of just like, I think that's a pretty good.
What's Hogan up
Twitter
to?
handle.
Is he on
He's
the
out
side?
in Florida. We didn't really talk about it because he left us. I was like, why? He doesn't even deserve to be considered on assignment, right?
He's on assignment in Florida.
He's on assignment in Florida.
Designated assignment in Florida. Spring
Yes.
training.
But we also teased a little bit of MLB previews, Hogan and I. So whether Hogan is back in time for the MLB season or not, those will be out eventually. So just look out for those. I believe we're doing NL East first, or I might just be doing it by myself unless John Longton wants to be part of that.
I'm down.
He's down. He doesn't really know enough. I just don't know. Do you know enough about baseball? Be honest. We like honesty here on Sittin Sportside podcast here on 1045theteam.com.
I can scratch the surface, but I can't dig too deep when it comes to baseball.
We'll try to get those out.
There's just so much going on.
Preview your favorite team. We'll talk about your favorite team before it starts on April 2nd. World Baseball Classic. Do you want to touch on that just for a second?
Israel
and Netherlands are both 2-0 in the same pool.
Yeah. I don't get how some teams can play, 2 games already, and then when's the United States first game? Friday?
Yeah. It's just kind of how it's scheduled.
It's kind of weird.
Well, there's 4 different pools, and all 4 pools have different host country.
Okay.
I don't know if it has to do with
Think
it.
they'd
They wanted to
all
get
be
the
in the
ball
same-
rolling. You think it'd be in the same time period, yeah.
I don't know.
But think about this. Israel and Netherlands now can rest their players because they already moved on to the next one. They're both 2-0. They can rest their players and they're going to wait like probably a week until the games are done over here so they can come into the second group of pools.
Now, how does it work for the pitchers? Are they on pitch counts?
I would imagine they're on some kind of pitch count,
Yeah.
yeah. If they're just pitching for their country, I know that they're still probably have hope because they probably play in their own little leagues. Not little league, but like their own leagues in their countries. There's Cuban leagues, there's Japanese leagues. I know that they probably have their own leagues that they worry about, but I would imagine those that aren't necessarily in the major leagues probably have a little bit more of less of a leash than those who are probably going to be preparing for a major league season.
Let me ask you a question.
That's kind of why you see teams like Korea and South Korea, and like those are the teams that really kind of win because they don't hold anything back. While USA, it'd be interesting to see because a lot of them might be holding something back so they don't get injured. It's almost like, I'm not gonna say it's like the Pro Bowl, but they might. I'm not saying that none of our players are going to go 100%, but when you have a whole 162 game season coming up, you kind of want to make sure you're still fresh for your team who's paying you millions of dollars.
Right. Let me ask you this. If you were a Cy Young candidate, would you play in the World Baseball Classic?
I don't know if this should be a reason because I consider myself a Cy Young candidate. I know you want to win those Cy Young awards, but I would twist that question and say if I think my team has a legitimate chance at winning or making the playoffs, and me pitching there would seriously hurt it if I possibly get injured. But if I was sitting there as a pitcher or anyone else, and I have a serious conversation with my coach, and I said, if I go out and do this, would you be able to help me with my rest during the 162 game season? Do you think we'd be able to give me a rest more often than not? And I have no aspirations to be the next Cal Ripken. I'll sit out a game or two. I would kind of have that conversation with my managerial staff, and really to figure out whether or not that it'd be a good thing for me and us as a team to do that. And if my coach said, because all the coaches and all the GMs and all the owners are going to say, you know what, probably don't do it because we're paying you millions. But as long as all of them are like have some kind of leeway, I would probably do it even if I was a Cy Young candidate because it happens once every 4 years. Might as well do it the one. Represent your country.
Yeah. USA, baby. You got to. 100%.
So is Ryan Braun from, you said something about Ryan Braun in Israel?
I think he's Jewish. I think if you're Jewish, you have the option to play for Israel.
Yeah, there is this kind of weird thing. A lot you've seen our U.S. men's national team for soccer. Like a lot of them are German, who have American parents, but they grew up in Germany. So like there is this weird rule, and I'm not even sure you have to be from an area either.
Yeah,
I saw Pooh Jeter. You remember him? He was a basketball player. I forgot what country I saw him playing for, and I could be completely off base here, but I don't even remember him having any origins of that country. He just kind of went to go play for that country because he might have played overseas there, and then once you like give your allegiance, if you will, to the country you're playing for, you can't play for any other country. So once you play for USA, you can't play for any other country.
Didn't A-Rod choose to play for Mexico over the United States, if I'm not mistaken? the last time around or two times ago?
I don't remember.
I think he did. I think he chose to play for Mexico when he could have played for the United States.
Yeah, I know that that happened before too. That happened this year. Forgot with who. I want to say Freddie Freeman. And he's playing for Canada, but I can't confirm that.
Gotcha. I think this is where we should end it, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. So keep your eye out for those podcasts. Thank you for joining us here on Sittin Sportside Podcast. For John Longton, I'm Eric Hammond, right here on ESPN Radio 104.5 TheTeam.com.